What's up, YouTube? Me and Luna are back for our Tier 10 Illuminate primary weapons, secondary weapons, and grenades tier list. This will be taking into account the best possible options for attachments, or kind of what I perceive as. Obviously, there's going to be some discussion on like what's best, but I'm going to take it in the best light. And remember, this is a primary weapons tier list, and I'm kind of comparing them against each other from more of like a performance standpoint, utility standpoint, rather than a fun perspective. So if you see me put something lower than you think, just remember I'm not taking into into equation of the fun factor of the weapon. That's not really what I'm trying to do here. So if you see, like, for instance, Liberator Carbine might be lower than, you know, your enjoyment of it, just keep that in mind, right? Please don't roast me too hard. You know, I'm trying to kind of do them off each other. And one last thing is I'm not taking into account the loadout that you can build around the weapon. I'm taking the weapon into account and how well it performs in a variety of tasks. So if you were to bring this weapon on a mission and you're like, I'm just going to use this primary weapon, how good does it perform? What can it do? What can't it do? Right? So disclosure aside, let's get into it. I know this is kind of a weird one to start off with, but I feel like it's probably just kind of necessary. You will find the Eruptor. I'm just going to put the Eruptor up here to start off as like our outlier. This thing got buffed so big that I need to put it all by itself. And I need to discuss it real quick. This thing is disgusting. You put angle foregrip with iron sights. You don't even need peak physique anymore. The shrapnel, it destroys things, even things that are like explosive immune, like the arm of a harvester. Like, it can destroy the Illuminate ships in like 2 to 3 shots, like depending on how good you are at like dealing damage to the shield. It absolutely destroys flesh mobs in like an average of 3 hits. Like, it can take out voteless very effectively. If you aim at the legs of overseers, you can pretty reliably one-shot them. Like, the Eruptor is like all by itself. Yeah, it does require a decent amount of aim, but what weapon doesn't in this category? So, like, it's just all by itself. So before we get into the tier list any further, I just feel like I need to place that so you guys can kind of understand what really does determine like the top of the tier list. Like, it's so bonkers. And no, before anyone like goes in the comments like this guy's gonna get a nerf, I've literally told the devs not to nerf it, because I know people are going to freak the hell out in the Helldivers community if they touch it at this point. I'm hoping they don't continue to power creep in the game, but, you know, it's a very fun weapon to use. It's just, it kind of feels like an obvious pick for a lot of different divers at the moment. So, yeah, starting there. All right, the base Liberator. Got a lot of attachments across the board. I think it's a baseline of like what it means to be like a Helldiver primary. You can get the drum mag, you can get some really good accuracy control, so you can full auto it, and it maintains a really good stability while keeping good ergonomics. Like, you don't have to go too heavily invested in recoil control in order to get it feeling good. Just solid across the board. It's sitting at B+ at the moment, but it'll probably shift to the right and be more of like a B overall is my guess. But, you know, absolutely solid. Really hard to go wrong with it. Liberator Penetrator. This one's a bit of a tough one for me to place because it's kind of straddling the line between like top of A+ and actually like being in like the S tier. The reason why I feel like this is that it's a very easy weapon to use. If you have fairly good accuracy, you can kill the majority of enemies on the Illuminate front extremely fast. The only one that like is going to be your problem with this weapon like this is the flesh mob, which is the only reason why I might not put it in S tier necessarily. But it's like straddling that line. It can take out harvesters very effectively. It can take out voteless, Illuminate overseers like I was talking about. It's pretty easy to trace enemies. It's got a big magazine now with the drum mag. It feels great, but it's not really dealing with your average flesh mob all that great. And that's where I think it's probably more close to A+, but man, is it so close to being S if it was just a little bit stronger versus flesh mobs. And the low fire rate tends to not really help it in the case against flesh mobs. So Liberator Concussive, it didn't benefit all that much from the attachment system because it already was pretty damn easy to use and it already had a drum mag. So the Liberator side, it didn't crazy get anything. I think it's somewhere between like B minus C plus kind of area. It really does straddle line. It really depends on like how much you are like valuing stagger, because this thing can stagger lock like a flesh mob as long as it's not pissed off. You probably notice that once they get pissed off and they're running, it's pretty hard to stop them unless you have gas. But it's like fairly effective against like dealing with like overseers, stun locking them, stopping them from shooting at you, flesh mobs. It feels okay versus the occasional vote list. You know, aiming for the legs is definitely a recommended for them. Don't aim chest height because it doesn't quite have as much damage as other weapons. It's not a bad weapon, but it definitely feels a little more lackluster, and it will depend on how you feel about stagger, like I said. The regular like Killzone assault rifle is probably going to be like the bottom of B to like B minus. It didn't get attachments. So, but it already had a fairly good fire rate, and it already had a fairly large magazine in comparison to the regular Liberator. But now that the regular Liberator has all these attachments, obviously the Killzone weapon's a little bit lower. I don't think there's much more for me to say. It's just, it didn't get attachments. So it kind of comes down the tier list just aside. It's not a bad weapon, but it's definitely a little bit more for like roleplay or the look of the weapon. Okay, for the first little bit controversial one would be the Liberator Carbine. I am going to put the Liberator Carbine higher than the base Liberator, but I don't believe it goes higher than B A minus. It did get the magazine increase. It did get a lot of recoil control, and you can make this thing feel like a laser beam. But unfortunately, it's got the light pen kind of debuff, where you're not going to be able to take out a Stingray. You're not going to be able to take out a Harvester. You're not going to be able to like kill Overseers with that like really fast TTK to their head. You're going to have to pick a body part, and you're going to have to nail it, which is not too bad. And it has a really high rate of fire, which is awesome. And it does pretty damn good against flesh mobs just because you can mag dump it, right? So the TTK is not that bad. It's not the most efficient weapon to kill a flesh mob, but I would, in more situations, prefer to bring the Liberator Penetrator, because then I can take out Stingrays, I can take out Harvesters, I can take out Overseers very fast with good accuracy. Like, it feels more universal to take a medium pen weapon versus light. But Liberator Carbine does feel a lot better. I used to dog on this thing a lot. I used to sit around B minus C. Well, it's definitely one of the bigger glow ups for a weapon with the attachment system, and I do like it a lot. Regular Tenderizer, I would prefer to use over the Liberator Carbine still. It's going to kind of fluctuate between like bottom of A and like A minus. I would prefer to use it over the Liberator Carbine. It just feels a lot more ammo efficient, right? Although it's still light pen, it is more ammo efficient. It's very easy to control without any attachments. But that being said, it didn't get a magazine increase, which kind of is definitely unfortunate for it. I was hoping it would at least get like an extended mag to bring it to like 45, 50 rounds. You know, maybe not the full 60, but I was hoping at least we'd get a little more. Now, it's not the end of the world because the gun already felt so good without attachments, but it is definitely feeling a little bit, you know, anxious next to the Liberator Carbine. That being said, if you do put recoil reduction on it, you can boost the fire rate with the Tenderizer. If you didn't know, it has fire mode swaps. That's another reason why I'd put it above the Carbine, is that you can get even more DPS if you use the Tenderizer on that faster fire mode, because like you get that huge damage per second while it already is very stable, which is very interesting. Give it a try. Adjudicator. Adjudicator is going to be right next to Liberator Penetrator. I'm probably just going to say like it's very interchangeable as far as like the two weapons. Some may prefer the Adjudicator, some may prefer the Liberator Penetrator. I like the Adjudicator will have a smaller mag, but it has more impact. It has more durable damage, slower fire rate, but you can really control the recoil because it does have more recoil. The attachment system works really well on both. But out of the box and even fully upgraded, the Liberator Penetrator just is easier to use, bigger magazine, less recoil across the board. So Adjudicator is definitely a weapon that will be more niche, but I think it still deserves to be right next up to the Liberator Penetrator as far as like pure power. If you're good at like controlling recoil, making sure to crouch, and you know, not needing the 60 round magazine as much. The amendment, a bit of a hot take on this one, because people are very not happy with this weapon, but even still, I do think it's actually quite good. I think it fits solidly into like the B+ category. I don't think it's A- territory, mostly down to the fact that like out of the box, you know, its ergo is not the best. You can improve it quite a bit by putting the 1.5x scope. By the way, best scope in the game because it has the same handling as like the normal red dots, but it has a little bit of magnification because it goes 1.5. And it's a really clean, just red dot. Very nice. So I typically run it with that. It sits at 35 ergo, which is not terrible, but it's the same as the Eruptor, right? I'm fine with the Eruptor having that because it's just so much punch per round. With the amendment, you kind of want to play a little more aggressive and you're going to utilize that fire rate. But I think a lot of people are sleeping on the fact that it has as much durable damage as the counter sniper. It does excuse my language, but a fuckload of light pen damage on top of that durable damage. And the fire rate, if you put it in semi-automatic, you can mag dump enemies quite fast. The TTK versus a flush mob is quite respectable. The reason why I'm going to put it lower though, light pen, but also the ergo, and I do think it needs a fairly good trigger finger to like get it to the Liberator Carbine. So as far as like ease of use goes, I think the Liberator Carbine has that going for it, being an AR, automatic, and so on and so forth. But amendment, give it a try. I am hoping they maybe make some changes to like ergo, make it a little bit like snappier, and I could see myself putting an A-. Constitution, what's there to say? It's medium pen, but it's a very, very, very slow firing medium pen. Yes, you get the melee weapon, but I would probably rather use the amendment overall. It is nice to be able to at least kill some of the medium pen enemies with the Constitution, but I don't think I can give it really higher than C+. Maybe if you're twisting my arm like B-, but I think largely I would rather take other weapons. It's definitely not terrible because I definitely am valuing the medium pen in some situations. It does feel like a challenge weapon a lot of time though. Deadeye, solid A tier. You know, not as easy to use as the Liberator Penetrator or the Adjudicator, but you know, if you're good at nailing headshots, very good stagger overall, good damage. You're not going to want to use this versus flush mobs, obviously, but I do think it has its place on this faction. Just, you know, careful that you're not like wasting too much ammo. And for legs, it does overpen, so you can kill multiple enemies at a time, like voteless and such. It is definitely like favored more for the long range player rather than the short range. Just keep that in mind. But if something does get close to you, the stagger on it is very useful. So even if you're not landing those headshots all the time, you know, if you miss a shot and hit their chest, they're not shooting at you for a second, which is nice. Very nice. All right, the Diligence. I don't like it as much as the amendment, but I do think it is very closely like in proximity to the amendment. I prefer the amendment over the Diligence, but I could see easily another person saying, well, I prefer the Diligence over the amendment just because of, you know, X, Y, or Z, like handling or, you know, maybe a slightly larger mag and stuff like that. But the amendment's sheer power, because it does do more damage than the Diligence and it does do more durable damage, it's very useful. And it's very good at like just mag dumping things, which is interesting in a DMR. And I do like that. So Diligence, still very solid. But, you know, largely is like a mid-ground kind of weapon. You know, great for a starter Helldiver, but I could see someone branching out. Diligence Counter Sniper, still easily going to be like in the A+ tier. The handling is still bugged on it. Keep that in mind. We did discover, because I have been hearing reports of like the Diligence Counter Sniper lost ergo, and I was like, I don't know, like it's hard to tell, you know, like was it just like me remembering the handling with peak physique or whatnot? But you can actually quite easily tell that it's bugged at the moment. They are working on it, where the devs are well aware of it. But what you do is like use the ergo on your Diligence Counter Sniper, kill your friend with his, take his weapon, and you'll notice the handling gets bumped like 15 points or so. This also happens to the AMR, so if you've been noticing the AMR doesn't feel as good, same thing. Now, I probably would put it in S tier if this bug wasn't fixed, because the Diligence Counter Sniper has tons of damage per second, because you can actually fire it quite quickly. Tons of durable, medium pen, just solid. It would probably be bottom of S tier, A tier kind of thing. But like with an accurate hand versus Illuminate, it feels very strong. It really does. But the ergo is definitely hurting it. You can improve it with the attachment system, but you do lose like recoil control and stuff like that when you have to. And if you didn't have to control the ergo with the new attachments as much, I think it would be like basically S tier, because you can make it really snappy, or you can make it like very easy to like spam fire. Just, yeah, if they fix that bug, I think it could go higher. All right, the Knight. I do genuinely love the Knight after its changes. It is very fun. This is a weapon that also was hovering around B-C. I do enjoy it more than Liberated Carbine personally, and that's why I'm placing it to the left of the Liberated Carbine. It has the fire rate boost on it. It does have lower like muzzle velocity over range, but for the most part, these higher fire rate weapons, you're not gonna want to use them outside of 50 meters. Whereas the Tenderizer, you might want to, because it just feels a little bit more stable. But yeah, I really like the Knight. Put the extended mags on it, put a vertical foregrip on it, and this thing cooks. It's great. You can even put it in burst fire, and it's like really fun for that. That's another reason why I put the Liberated Carbine a little bit lower. The burst fire on the Knight is very satisfying to use, and I do genuinely enjoy using it a ton. Great handling. The range will suffer, but absolute laser beam. Very fun. If you haven't tried it out, give it a try. It's very good. ST11, unfortunately, is like the Knight's like weaker brother, because it didn't get any of the steroids of the attachments, right? So it's probably going to be like bottom of B-, maybe even C. Like, they did do some tuning to this weapon, but largely, like, because it has the same recoil and it just doesn't feel that good, nearly as good. I'm probably going to put it at bottom of B-, but like, it feels like you're just mag dumping things, and things are not always dying, and it's not nearly as stable, so you're probably going to like burst fire more often. Like, it just doesn't feel nearly as good. Like, I don't know if the Knight is worth $15 to buy Super Citizen Edition. Like, that's up to you, and that's your value proposition, but like ST11, it just, yeah. Hopefully it gets attachments. We'll see. Reprimand, another solid glow up for this weapon. I'm gonna put it closer to like A, but I'll get into that in a second. Amazing, with, you know, vertical foregrip and being able to adjust the sights, and just in general, like put a muzzle brake on that, or a compensator, and just make it as a laser beam. Like, one of its biggest downsides of this weapon was just it was hard to handle. You had to crouch/prone to deal with all that recoil. But then on top of that, it had a bunch of bloom, right? When you fired it, it was just inaccurate because it was like an SMG, I guess, or whatever. Now, it's just as accurate as every other weapon in the game. It has a decent amount of sway, but it's not that bad. This thing shreds. Just don't use it outside of like 50 meters. The bullet velocity on it is really bad, because I think it's just a really heavy round with not much bullet velocity. So it loses a lot of damage at range, and it's just hard to hit things at decent range because, you know, the bullet velocity is so low. So that's why another reason why I'm not going to put it as high, but man, is it very fun to use in like a close quarter situation. If you need medium pen, aim for the head of Overseer. Things just get shredded in 2 bullets. It's great. It feels awesome. Highly recommend giving it a try if you haven't as well. Loved getting this in the level 25. Okay, Defender Pummeler. Bit of a hard one for me to place. I feel like for a while now, the Pummeler and Defender have been like kind of dropping down my tier list. They have received a drum mag, so they get 75 rounds, which is super cool, but their fire rates are so low and the damage is kind of mediocre. Durable damage is not great. I largely feel like I would rather use the alternatives aside from like the Defender. Like, I don't want to use the Defender often. And I got the Defender to 25, and it was like, like B- kind of Like, I didn't think it was like bad, but like, I didn't also think it was good. Like, I would rather use other weapons in the B+ category than the Defender. It's great to like feel like you don't have to reload very often, but I missed the damage per second of the Knight, because I did the Knight first to 25, then I did the Defender immediately afterwards, because I wanted to compare and contrast. The Knight just blew it out of the water. Not just from like a fun perspective. I'm trying not to. I'm taking the fun out of this equation, but like just from like if I had a Overseer in front of me, much rather have the Knight in my hands to just delete it, right? Rather than like slowly kill it. Like if you've ever noticed with Overseers, elevated Overseers, if you start doing damage to them, after they get to about like less than half health, they fly away from you and start like moving around. the defender felt terrible in that situation because it's like you're slowly killing it, like, and then he flies away and it's like really hard to start like hitting their shots because it's like slow muzzle velocity of the defender. But with the knight, I could just mag dump them and they would die before they had a chance to fly away. So the defender just felt really bad in that situation. Pummeler honestly just feels kind of like a Liberator Carbine or a Liberator Concussive, sorry, in just different clothes. It's largely the same. It has some, I think the Liberator Concussive has like an easier time with dealing with range targets, whereas the Pummeler has a bigger magazine and it's one-handed. You can kind of interchange them depending on like what you really want from them, but largely also just a B-. Regular Punisher. I'm going to put that in like A- or so, somewhere in the A- tier. I don't think it really deserves to go to A+, but you know, always a solid option for Illuminate. It feels quite good, especially with the better chokes, because you can really start like kind of nailing overseers from a larger distance than you used to. But it's just like overall like great stagger, good damage, good durable damage. It's light pen, so keep that in mind. But like it's not like a bad choice at all for Illuminate. You just need to cover your bases elsewhere when you bring, like with the Liberator Carbine and Knight, you gotta cover your bases. Slugger, bit of a controversial one, maybe to some extent, but I think the Slugger is somewhere in like A-. I almost want to put it A+ next to the Reprimand and Deadeye, but I feel like I prefer to use the Deadeye and Reprimand over the Slugger in most situations. The muzzle velocity on it is pretty rough. So you definitely want to use it in like kind of a closer range than like the Deadeye, for instance. Whereas the Deadeye, I enjoy it more because it has that muzzle velocity. I feel like I can take out enemies from farther away. The Slugger doesn't really have that muzzle velocity. It loses that speed quite fast after leaving the barrel. So, you know, dealing with like some enemies at like even just a decent distance can be pretty rough. Luckily, you can put some decent sights on it, you know, increase the sight picture for yourself to like kind of snipe a little more. But I largely would rather use the other medium pen weapons over the Slugger. I still feel like the Slugger is in a good spot, but maybe it could be better if it got a little bit more muzzle velocity or like a little bit more punch to compare it to the Deadeye. Because we're going to be talking about the Dominator soon, and I still think the Dominator shreds compared to the Slugger. The Halt. The Halt's a hard one for me to place. It did not get any interesting perks or anything like that with the patch, and I still think the Halt tech swapping between EMS and normal rounds is way too clunky. Even if you do the stuff with your settings, it feels largely like really annoying to do, and it can get tiresome. So like it's probably like A-, like maybe like A tier, like if there was an A tier, but I'm gonna put it like the top of A-. Like it is good to use, and if you can get a lot of the flechette to hit the head of an overseer, it can melt them pretty quickly. You can deal with a lot of medium pen targets like the stingrays and stuff. It loses a lot of damage at range, but you can deal with it. The EMS rounds are fairly useful for dealing with like flesh mobs and stuff like that, as long as they're not enraged. But like I said, swapping between the two modes is like annoying, and I wish it was way easier, like just a flip of a switch, right? One button, rather than having to do one button, hold, swap. Like it's just awkward. It's just super awkward. So I think that's what would help the weapon kind of go up the tier list a little more. And also just the fact that it didn't get like the better like muzzles, I would have really enjoyed that as well. Because I largely just ignored leveling it up for the most part, because it's just like, you can get anything interesting. And I don't want to put a scope on, I don't care. So yeah. All right, Cookout. Cookout, I'm probably still going to put an S. And like this one's a bit of a tough one for me, because I like it, to some extent, like it has light pen, and it's like not going to deal with a harvester and not going to deal with a deal with a stingray. But the fact that it is so absurdly good with the fire changes is nuts. Like even if you shoot at like a harvester's eye, you can light it on fire, and then you can cook it eventually with the Cookout, pun intended. And it still has tons of stagger, good ammo economy, amazing for dealing with voteless. You only have to light an overseer on fire twice to kill them. Twice, that's it. Light them on fire, swap targets, shoot at something else, go back to the overseer, shoot it again, they burn, they die. That's insane. Like you're not only staggering them, but you light them on fire. Flesh mobs die quite quickly. Like fire weapons feel amazing right now. I'm looking forward to updating my other tier list for bugs and bots, because like fire weapons are like feeling incredible at the moment. Like it's nuts how good they are. Yeah, I think I can justify putting it in like bottom of S, even though it doesn't have medium pen and even though it's not dealing with a stingray, you know, like that. But it's really strong. It's really strong. Breaker's been a really fun one. This is the latest one for me to update. Been really liking it with like that vertical foregrip, short mags. I actually like with short mags more than drum mags just because of the really fast 13 round reload. It feels very good. By the way, quickly, I didn't say it yet. All the weapons ammo economies, no matter what mag you pick, are largely all the same. We did the math on them. At most, it's like 30 rounds for an AR. At most. It's most of the time like very similar rounds. I'm pretty sure for the breakers, it's like 28 versus 30, like 128 versus 130. Like it's so close that it's like doesn't really even matter. But yeah, breaker feels good. Put the choke on it, spam it, feels solid. Honestly, I'm going to be putting it somewhere like middle A. You know, it definitely does suck when like a harvester shows up or like a stingray shows up and you're like, well, I can't deal with it with this weapon, but it does delete flesh mobs pretty good. You know, on average, I think it was like 2 short mags, a little bit more than that, which is not bad for ammo economy. And it's you're firing it quite quickly. Good durable damage. It has a little bit of a hard time with like overseers, especially elevated overseers when they get too far from you, but with the full choke on it, feels pretty damn good. Good durable damage, good for voteless, one tapping legs very consistently. I liked it. I genuinely liked it, and I love the changes to it. I think the attachment system has done some awesome work for it. Break and Spray and Pray, not as much. I kind of stopped leveling this after a bit because I just genuinely wasn't having fun. It was kind of like Defender tier in the sense that like I wasn't enjoying it as much as I wish I did. Like you can get the choke on it, but it just it can do everything the breaker can do, but just slower. And at sometimes more than like twice as much time, right? It has twice as much ammo. So you're just like kind of holding down the trigger, which is cool. But like in order to do things, it just takes so much longer. It's like very similar to the Defender versus the Knight, right? Spray and Pray versus the Breaker. They're very similar weapons, and they feel like they do very similar roles, but one just does the job way faster than the other. So the Breaker Spray and Pray is like largely like a B-, like maybe slightly over here. Like maybe I'll change it, but like I genuinely just did not enjoy it nearly as much as the Breaker. And I'm going to put it on purpose right next to Defender because it's just like the Knight. I would rather the job be done faster with like a little bit worse ammo economy. And because keep in mind, like, yes, the Breaker Spray and Pray has more ammo, but it takes twice as many shots to do the same job. So they largely kind of feel like they're the same other than voteless. But let's be honest, killing a voteless slightly more efficiently isn't a huge deal because voteless are just so easy to kill in general, right? I can't value killing a voteless that high versus like how long it takes to kill like a tender or a flesh mob or an overseer and stuff like that. Something that's actually more threatening. Breaker Incendiary. I'm not going to quite put this in S tier, but like I almost want to. I do genuinely think that like if this was like purely my own and I'm not worrying about anyone else's opinion or any other play style, I think the Breaker Incendiary is like S tier as well, like the Cookout. But I did find myself missing like, I wish I kind of had the Cookout stagger here, or I wish I had the Cookouts like a little bit better ammo economy at times, because it does do a little bit more damage per shot. The Breaker Incendiary is like very much on that verge of like the two, with the short mags, I was most of the time using the muzzle brake rather than the duckbill. Duckbill felt great for bugs. I largely wanted more accuracy to light overseers on fire more often. But because it's just, you know, of the pallet and like having trouble like lighting enemies on fire, the Cookout would just be the easier weapon to use versus Illuminate. But it felt really nice using the Breaker Incendiary versus flesh mobs more so than the Cookout, because if you want a mag dump, you absolutely can with the Incendiary Breaker. But I think in more situations, the Cookout is more the opposite answer. It's just a little more boring because it didn't get any of the attachment upgrades. It is what it is. But yeah, highly recommend using the Incendiary Breaker. Give it a try. Put the muzzle brake on it. Short mags, love it. And have fun with it. It was genuinely a fun weapon to level up to 20. I really enjoyed the fire damage. It was great. Same kind of thing as the Cookout. 2 applications of fire on an Illuminate, and they're dead. It's really cool. Crossbow. Crossbow can't deal with a harvester still very effectively. Like, it can do damage to it, but the majority of its explosive damage is getting ignored. But it's just so effective versus other parts of the Illuminate army that I can't ignore it, how good it is. It's not as good as the Eruptor versus flesh mobs, but it deals with them very effectively. Heavy or medium explosive damage is very good versus them. It hits all their hitboxes at the same time. It's like multiplicative damage. Explosive damage is insane. It 2-taps Overseers pretty reliably. Just keep in mind that the projectile velocity can be a little hard at times. Deals with Voteless quite effectively. You can take out Stingrays with it. Just, careful. The muzzle velocity on that arrow is pretty slow, so you'll have to lead the target a decent amount more than the Eruptor, but you can definitely do it. But yeah, solid S tier weapon. It's not nearly touching, like, technically the Eruptor should have its own tier above S tier, like S plus, but I didn't want to do that. But just, yeah, your exploding crossbow is not as strong, but it's good. It's very good. Plasma Punisher. I'm just hoping that this gun gets some love. It feels like it's been left behind. It didn't get any interesting attachments other than some scopes, and honestly, it just doesn't, like, it needs to one-tap Voteless. It needs to, like, be a lot more effective versus, like, Overseers, not just, like, pushing them around. It's, like, fairly effective versus the flesh mobs, but, like, it's not that good that I'm gonna, like, automatically put it higher, because it, like, struggles versus so many other enemies that it's, like, pretty disappointing to use a lot of the time that I can't put it any higher, honestly. It almost deserves D tier. Honestly, it might. It might just deserve D tier right next to the, honestly, it might actually be lower than Constitution. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on it, but I really just genuinely don't recommend it. Accelerator Rifle. Bit of a glow up. Didn't get any attachments, but they buffed it like a good amount, to the point where, like, it's probably like A- tier. Solid versus flesh mobs, good DPS. Solid versus Overseers. And then, like, now that, like, it doesn't have that range drop off, if you didn't see that, that's changed. It's also, like, a pretty good harvester killing weapon. Obviously it's not great versus the Voteless, but, like, I'm honestly, like, now that I'm placing it, I'm like, maybe it's, like, honestly, like, down. I think it's actually a little higher than that. The Accelerator Rifle is actually kind of it's a good glow up. It doesn't have much ammo still. But yeah, Accelerator Rifle is fantastic. Sorry for the interruption. Got us up. It's huge glow up. Huge glow up. I give it another try. The ammo economy is not the best, which is why I kind of wanted to put it more on A-, but it does do a good job for, like, its ammo economy now. And it just feels way more reliable. Like, it feels like a hit scan weapon at times now, because the muzzle velocity is so nice. Good glow up. Good glow up. Blitzer, solid A+ tier. It's pretty boring because it didn't really get anything for the attachments other than you can put iron sights on it for +5 ergo, I guess. But still, like, a very solid weapon. Range is an issue. Some amount of consistency is an issue, but, it's still amazing versus Voteless, amazing versus a lot of enemies. Still has medium pen. Not the greatest versus flesh mobs, but, like, it's still, like, a fairly good option to, like, stagger and stuff like that. And it is doing decent damage to them. On average, it's just not a very fast killer of it. You're not going to be doing much against the harvesters and stuff, but I just feel like the ease of use is so high, and it's so good at, like, Overseers and Voteless that I think it still deserves to be closer to A+. And then obviously ammo economy isn't limited, so you don't gotta worry about that anymore. Good, solid weapon. Scythe, tough. I'm probably gonna put it like B+. I did enjoy using this weapon, but it definitely didn't feel like it had the DPS at times that I would have liked on it. I think the heavy capacitor was nice. Lighting enemies on fire is nice, especially for, like, flesh mobs, but the damage per second just as a base weapon is still fairly low. Like, it's probably a little bit higher, like bottom of B, like A-, sorry. Like, it is, like, definitely, like, a fun weapon to use with the fire damage and stuff, but, like, taking out a shield takes forever, it feels like, with this weapon. Overseers can often just kind of, like, tank a lot of it unless you light them on fire pretty consistently. Flesh mobs obviously tank a lot. As long as you can light them on fire, though, it feels okay. You're not going to be doing anything versus a harvester. You're not going to do anything versus Stingray. Ammo economy is good. The average vote lists are annoying for you because you're obviously going to have to like reload and overheat quite a bit, even with the high capacity. But, you know, it's probably A minus. I think I was being a little harsh when I initially put it, but I think A minus. Sickle. Sickle's going to be coming down a little bit on this one. It didn't get anything special. And honestly, I think the scythe is the better option versus the sickle at its current time with the flame. It's not that it makes like the sickle bad, but it is finally the sickle is starting to felt power crept by the attachment system as a whole, and just the AR is getting buffed as a whole, and sickle not really getting touched. Rightfully so. The sickle has been on top of the ARs for the longest time, but hopefully it gets the bigger magazine at some point in the future, or it gets something else to like kind of help it. It's not like it's in a bad spot or anything like that, but it is light pen, and it is losing a lot of damage versus other weapons. You have a really nice big magazine with unlimited ammo, which is cool, but Illuminate in general is not usually very hard to find ammo because there's just so much ammo lying around that it's hard for me to like justify like unlimited ammo weapons being like super high on the tier list just because of that. Still a great weapon, don't get me wrong, but it is definitely starting to, you know, drop down, and it's like on the verge of A minus. Like, I don't want people to think like I'm like shitting on it really hard or anything like that, but I do think it is losing some of its power over time. Double-edged sickle is either an S tier weapon or like a B plus weapon. And the reason why I say that is because it's how much you invest in it. Because of this tier list, I don't really show like what you can do to like invest in it. Like, you have to put the armor on, and you got to put vitality on, and then probably bring some stim boosters or like some stims in your backpack. And, you know, it's actually like very strong. It's easily like a support weapon at times. But if you don't invest into it, it's probably like B plus. You might be like, why is it there? Shouldn't it be lower? No, they actually reverted some of the damage changes on the double-edged sickle. This is a hidden change. They did not talk about it. You only need to put on the most basic fire armor, like light fire armor from Freedom Flame and Vitality, and then this thing won't do damage to you until you overheat it, which is pretty cool. And I think that's like solid B plus territory. Honestly, probably better than the sickle in many respects, but that requires some amount of investment, right? You need to put on fire armor, and you got to make sure there's vitality. Vitality is usually something that people pick in the missions, you know, like upwards of like 80% of the time, but you need to put on fire armor. So because it requires that requirement, it's still lower than the sickle, but if you invest a little bit into this thing, it feels really good. But at a base, like just using the weapon, it's not hurting you as much anymore. You can definitely use the medium pen side of this thing, but you probably won't be interacting with the pen 4 because it's just doing too much damage to you. So it is what it is. Scorcher, solid A plus tier. Medium explosive damage. Unfortunately, because a lot of the damage is explosive, it's not always going to be the best versus a harvester, but it's fantastic versus everything else. Honestly, I'm going to put it like right at the bottom of S tier. It's still like really good, and the fact that it's so good against flesh mobs, I'm probably just going to put it in S tier. Really good, consistent against overseers, like just always is. Didn't get any interesting buffs. Its ammo economy is still not the best, but like I said, I'm not judging ammo economy as hard because it's an Illuminate mission, and Illuminate missions have so much ammo around. I do genuinely love using Scorcher. It's very strong. The only enemy you're not really taking out all by yourself is like harvesters. Like I said, explosive damage immune kind of sucks, but you can still technically kill it. It'll just take a while. Purifier, still an absolutely insanely good weapon on the Illuminate front. Explosive damage, high explosive damage versus flesh mobs really works well against them. Voteless, you can just tap fire, which is really nice. Definitely a better ammo economy than the Scorcher, but depending on how much you like charge weapons, this will change. Some people want the immediacy of the Scorcher, some people like the Purifier. I think it's a give and take. You know, there's benefits to either one, but they're largely pretty similar to one another as far as classification goes. You know, just personal preference will dictate where you put it. Torture. I'm gonna put this in like solid like A minus. Flamethrowers still don't have a crazy amount of range, but the huge amount of fire damage that it gets is really useful. Lighting the ground on fire has never been better for the Torture. Just using it as a weapon that just you light the enemies on fire or light the ground on fire and then push back. The enemies walk into the fire, take a stupid amount of damage. on average. You can kill harvesters with this thing fairly effectively, but you have to be in like the danger zone, like the zap danger zone. Flesh mobs get melted by pretty effectively. You're not really taking a stingray out with this thing. I guess it's possible if you got enough height with some other type of method or something along those lines, but not really taking it out. You know, fun weapon to use though. I highly recommend giving it a try if you haven't already. With the fire changes, it's a good primary to use. Solid. Dominator, easily up into the S tier still. One taps voteless, very much one taps overseers if you're good at doing that, or just like chest shots with tons of stagger. It's one of the fastest kills of a harvester, just because you can spam fire their limb and they die really fast. Dominator's still in a great spot. The attachment system has just made it easier to use, either through ergonomics or through like putting a vertical foregrip on it and spamming it even harder. Yeah, it's solid. I highly recommend using the Dominator. I did before and I still do. It's getting kind of overshadowed by other weapons, but it's still a really good option for Illuminate. Highly recommend. Peacemaker, it's somewhere in the C tier as far as I'm concerned. It's not particularly amazing at anything. Like, it's solid. You can use it. Doesn't generate much noise, which is cool. A little fact on that, but I don't really recommend it all too much. I would probably still recommend using the Redeemer in most situations instead of it. But yeah, there's not much more to say. It's light pen. They've been power crept by other medium pen options or just like more utility focused options in general. So you're not going to see nearly as much usage. Verdict, solid B plus A minus. I think I'm going to put it in B plus for now, but you know, solid weapon. You know, it's basically just the bigger brother to the Peacemaker. Medium pen is nice because you could kill like a harvester with it. You could kill a lot of different weapon or system or a lot of enemies with this weapon system, but it's like, I'd rather actually use the Senator in a lot of situations, honestly. I feel like the Senator is more of like my all-arounder when it comes to my secondary. If I want medium or heavy pen, dealing with a harvester is a lot easier. Dealing with a lot of enemies is a lot easier. You're not going to be killing voteless with it nearly as much, but you technically could. But yeah, Senator, feeling good as always. Stun Lance, probably like C tier somewhere. I'm not a huge fan of melee weapons in general, but they do have their usages as times. I know a lot of people are going to be telling me, well, they're great voteless killers and Stun Lance can stun this and that. It's just like, it's incredibly risky, and you could just bring another secondary weapon to do it even better at 50 meters, right? Ammo economy in your secondary is usually not that bad of a deal that you need to use a melee weapon. That's not to say that melee isn't fun. It is, but it's not that good. Saber is going to be down in D tier. Like, you're going to have a lot of like hit trading because it doesn't have the stun. I'm going to put the stun weapons a little bit higher because at least if you hit the enemy first, they will not hit you back. They do less damage, but not hit trading with a melee weapon is very useful. Although you don't have ammo with your melee weapons, your ammo economy for your melee weapon is your health bar. And you are going to be trading a lot and putting yourself in danger to potentially lose all your health. And then your melee weapon doesn't feel particularly good anymore. So for the most part, melee weapons are down in D, C tier. You know, if you enjoy them, fuck yeah, have fun. Put a ballistic shield on. But remember, I'm not taking into account other things you can do to enhance these weapons. These are the base weapons with their attachments. Okay, keep that in mind. Sim pistol, always B plus tier. So good choice, great team play. It's always nice to have. It would be nice to have like some sort of tracking or just like it'd be easier to use with like even more velocity or something like that. But you know, always, you know, it's always puts a smile on my face when I'm playing randoms and someone has a dim pistol. It's great. I love it. Bushwhacker, good weapon, good solid B tier. It's nice to have that damage per second of the shotgun, but largely I wasn't found myself needing it all that often. I'd rather have the higher pen of medium pen in a lot of situations, or just like I'll just bring a shotgun in my primary or something along those lines. It's not a bad choice whatsoever, but I don't think it quite deserves to be an A tier. Talon, solid, you know, weapon across the board. Don't spam fire it. You will overheat it too fast. Like, the best way to use this thing is like kind of tap firing it and trying to like pace your shots, so you're not constantly overheating it. It does overheat very easily, but it also cools down very fast, which is cool. It does take care of overseers quite nicely, especially if you're hitting headshots. It can deal with your medium pen targets. It's not going to be the fastest because you're either reloading it or waiting for it to cool down, but it does have a lot of utility in that regard. Crisper. I'm actually genuinely going to put this in like A+ tier. Like, I don't think it's S, but like, I think some people will honestly kind of sleep on this thing because of how fire is going at the moment. It's higher than a torture because typically it's easier for me to put a crisper into my loadout than it is a torture. Because the crisper is just genuinely not competing with as many like heavy hitters. It's mostly just kind of competing with like, you know, Senator, Talon, Grenade Pistol, right? Maybe Ultimatum. But for the most part, crisper feels really nice as a secondary of like spray the ground with fire, step backwards, swap to your primary. Feels amazing for that. Really good. Flesh mobs melt to it. Like, it's just, I recommend giving it a try if you have not. Like, if you've been sleeping on this thing, give it a try. It's fun. Grenade Pistol, easily S tier. Just the utility. Does good damage versus flesh mobs even. Can take out voteless. It's actually rather useful for when the Illuminate do their beam in from their Illuminate ships. Fire Grenade Pistol at them. It does a ton of damage, right? Like, you might not one-shot an Overseer, but they're like half health now. A second one will kill them. Like, you can, you know, take out so many enemies with the Grenade Pistol. It's not just a utility weapon. It's really nice when they just bunch together. It's quite useful. Dagger, it feels okay. Like, it's just solid. It's honestly just like a better Redeemer or like Peacemaker. I'm not really recommending it all that much. It is really nice that it lights enemies on fire, which is cool. But against everything else, I don't really recommend using it too much. It's like, okay, maybe it's a little bit closer with like A- because of fire, but like, it's not as crazy as like other weapons. And if I'm trying to light things on fire, honestly, I'm probably just going to bring the crisper more often than not, or just bring like a medium pen with Talon because it just has more usage of like killing a harvester in a clutch moment or killing a stingray. Ultimatum is in a bit of a weird spot at the moment. With the changes being made, it is a better AoE tool, but with the new repel missions, those ships are not the same ships as normal missions. You can't one-shot the repel ships consistently or honestly at all with the Ultimatum at times, which is super awkward. So I'm going to put it in A- or A+, sorry. Because it's quite good at like instantly deleting a flesh mob. It's quite good at just like deleting large groups of enemies in general. Same kind of thing as the Grenade Pistol. They beam in their targets, a lot of enemies in one spot, throw this thing at them, a lot of kills in one shot. It's great. And on a normal Illuminate mission, like the cannon shooting and stuff like that, it does one-shot the ships, even with their shields up. So it does have that really nice usage. And you are spawning with 2 rounds now with Hellpod optimization. They reverted that. So it has a lot more AoE damage now rather than single target damage. You have 2 rounds on base, and like, especially with flesh mobs, this thing is very nice for deleting them. If you just need them to be deleted, especially if there's a couple standing next to each other, deleted. Feels very nice. Loyalist, solid A-. I do like using this thing occasionally, but it's not always what I really want for my sidearm. Like, typically I use the sidearm as like my, oh shit, kind of like backup weapon when my primary weapon is out of ammo or just I don't have time to reload it. But the Loyalist is more of like a sidearm that you need to like preemptively think about using, if that makes sense, because you need to charge it and be in a situation where you can charge it. Because if you're just tap firing it, it doesn't feel very good. It's nice that they gave it more mags like in the last like 6 months, but I still feel as if it is definitely the weapon you have to like think about using before using it. Not a no shit weapon. But it doesn't make it bad. Like, if you think about it more of like as like almost like using it as a primary in your secondary slot, I think it arguably could be an A+, but I think most people are probably going to use it the way I use it, which I'm going to bring it a little bit lower on the tier list. Dynamite. It's okay. It's okay. I still wish that it had more radius. Maybe you had an additional one. But it feels good. Like, it's solid. Like, there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. It's pretty good against flesh mobs and stuff, but, you know, you're probably going to lean towards other grenades a little bit more. Frag grenade, B-, actually C. To some extent, if a nade can't deal with the Tesla towers, I'm going to just genuinely put it lower. They did give frag grenades more shrapnel, which is cool, but the frag grenade doesn't have enough destruction force to destroy an Illuminate Tesla tower. It can if there's like a purple canister next to it, but like that's kind of cheating. Yeah, because you're going to get situations where you're going to see a Tesla tower and you can't kill it because you have a frag grenade in your hand. That feels terrible. It immediately goes to C tier because of that. This thing needs to be able to kill Tesla towers. And then maybe I'll put it like B+, probably. Yeah. High explosive grenade, honestly, just like an alternative to the dynamite. You know, 6.5 dozen the other, you're probably going to pick one or the other. They're not bad options. They're quite good against flesh mobs because, once again, explosive damage is really good. But, you know, it's not shining as bright as your incendiary grenades. Incendiary grenades in general are feeling very good with flesh mobs and just fire damage in general being very useful. You can technically like kill a lot of enemies with this grenade that you couldn't before. Like harvesters technically can just die to the fire now and stuff like that. But that being said, it doesn't have much damage, and I honestly wish that incendiary grenades lasted longer on the ground. I mean, like the fire effect. I think it fades too quickly. I think, like, especially when you're comparing it to like the gas grenade, which is like still gonna be an S tier grenade, it's hard for it to exist. The gas grenade is just the better CC / damage / destruction, because you can blow up a ship with it. Remember, you can blow up a Tesla tower with it. Like, yeah, gas grenade is still like insane. It's so fucking good. The immediacy of the impact grenade is great, but it has lower damage. But it's like dynamite, explosive, high explosive, and impact are like interchangeable depending on playstyle. If you want something immediate and you don't want to deal with a fuse, impact is great. If you want higher damage and higher pen, high explosive. If you want larger radius but lower pen, dynamite, right? It's interchangeable. You will largely like kind of decide based on your playstyle and what you're looking for. They're just so similar that it's hard for me to really differentiate them more than just saying that. Stun grenades are honestly like B- C. They definitely have been like falling slowly down the order. It's a great oh shit button, but because you can't do that oh shit button to like a flesh mob that is like angry and charging at you, it feels bad. You might as well just use gas grenade. Also, the radius isn't great. You only have 4 of them. They're just slowly falling down. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh, but you also can't take out Tesla towers with them, whereas gas grenade you can. Yeah, I don't know. Seeker grenades, B-. Before someone in the comments says, I get so many kills with them, dude. They're so good. They're bugged. They get double the amount of kills. When they kill something, they get double. It's been bugged for a while since they've come out. So if you're doing like an eradicate mission, they're OP to get the percentage to go higher faster. But for like regular missions, the utility is cool, but guys, like it can't even kill a Tesla tower a lot of time because it flies to the Tesla tower. You can ping it, flies to the Tesla tower, blows up, and it doesn't kill it because it didn't blow up like close enough. And I don't know if it has enough destruction force. It might be destruction force, or it might be like it's blowing up too far away. It just, I don't know. It doesn't one-shot a overseer, elevated overseer as well, which then it's like that. I feel like that would be like the primary use for it. You know, you throw it, ping a overseer, and it flies at it, kills it. It doesn't. They survive it. They tank it a lot of the time. So it's like, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm honestly being too nice to it. Like maybe it's C tier, dude. Maybe it's D tier. Cause like it's not even that good. Like you only get 4 of them. Honestly, the amount of times it'll just fly out and kill like 1 voteless by accident because you weren't micromanaging it. Yeah, I'd rather take frags or stun grenade over the seeker. If you want to inflate your kills and just like ping voteless and get like a higher kills amount at the end of the game to like flex on your teammates, sure, go for it. But like, it's fake numbers at the end of the day. It's not real. It's literally fake. Smoke. I guess there's a purpose to it, but like largely there needs to be more smoke. You need to have like 10 smoke grenades and they need to be much larger like radiuses, right? Like it's just, I throw a smoke grenade and it's laughable. Like dude, like it's laughable how much smoke comes out of a smoke grenade. I don't like them. Thermites, they're pretty damn good. I'm probably going to put them like the bottom of A-. You can like one-shot flesh mobs or at least get them very close to dying. You could technically kill like harvesters, but it's not a very effective way to kill a harvester. It's very nice for the utility of like being able to throw it at Illuminate ships and then see them blow up. But just remember, if you notice that it's not blowing at Illuminate ship, aim at the rim around the side or down below. If you put it on the roof, I find it just like hurts the shield and then doesn't actually kill the ship. I noticed this the most on the repel missions because those ones are a little bit funky. But yeah, if you're using thermites, try to throw lower rather than higher. It'll work more often than not. Throwing knife down in D tier. I tried to use them. They're just silly. They're just a silly thing, and I don't know necessarily what they could do other than give it like unrealistic amounts of damage. They're just silly. All right, Pyrotech, the nade that everybody shit on and judged a book by its cover. This thing is insane. It's honestly S tier. You can throw 2 at the feet of a harvester and it dies quite quickly. You can throw like 2 at flesh mobs and they will die quite quickly if you can get them to stand in it. You can throw this at a bunch of voteless and the fire will get them, or the ballistic damage. If you're like wondering like why is it so insane, it's because when it spins and it's like elevating, it's doing pen 5 ballistic damage like per tick. I don't know the exact damage amounts, but like that plus the fire is more than enough to kill a harvester. It's nuts. Because if you guys don't know, the harvester toes more or less are like a weak point, but not to explosive damage. So it's like actually incredibly good. It can kill the ships. It can kill Tesla towers. Just do be in mind, it's a little annoying at times versus the ships. You got to throw it like directly into the gap, and it needs to be more or less perpendicular to you. If you throw it at an angle, I can find that like it kind of spins out of the doorway, which is a bit annoying, but it's just so good in so many different ways. It's the only nade that I feel like really competes with gas grenades at the moment on Illuminate missions. It's very fun. You get 6 of them. You can kind of spam them. They're very good versus like all enemy types, other than the flying ones, obviously, but like very strong. Maybe at times not as strong as gas and the utility of gas, but like, dude, it's really good at killing things. Like it basically by itself saves the war bond from being trash tier. But now that the amendment is not that bad that we've seen and the armor just got buffed, I think the war bond has been saved a decent amount. We'll just see if they do anything to the flag in the future to make it like that proper, like really good war bond that we all want. So yeah. All right, quickly, let's just see if there's anything that I feel is in a bad spot. Like I need to like kind of change it. I'd probably bring the Blitzer down a little bit just because the Blitzer struggles with range and you're not really going to be dealing with like a harvester, whereas a lot of the other weapons here in this tier are like very good against harvesters or more enemies in general. Maybe being a bit too kind to the accelerator rifle, but like honestly, give it a try. You might be oddly impressed by it. It still has like the reload problem and like not enough mags, but like, dude, it actually genuinely feels pretty damn good. I was surprised. I was genuinely surprised. Feeling like A- tier is pretty accurate. Might be being a bit too generous to like guns like the Punisher. Maybe I bring the Punisher a little bit lower, but honestly, I do genuinely enjoy using it, and it just feels so solid that it's like hard for me not to want to put it there. So I'm gonna get it. Maybe I'll bring it down. I'll bring it down to B+, but I genuinely do think it's like it's a solid weapon, especially with the choke. Full choke. It's really strong. STA is fair. I feel like the double-edged sickle. Just remember, it is a lot better if you wear armor and the booster. A lot fucking better. But by itself, I think it's a solid B+. Sickle, I might be being a bit too rough on it. I do definitely think it's near like the top of B+. Just keep in mind that like, the other assault rifles are just so much better now, and they're doing so much more damage than the sickle on average. The ammo economy just doesn't really matter on Illuminate. It won't be as harshly placed on other factions. I'm definitely going to tell you that because it's harder to get ammo on the other factions reliably. But I think we're good with everything else. Little tough on the Defender and the Pummeler, but honestly, I think I'm being pretty fair. They do kind of feel like just like pea shooters in comparison to a lot of other weapons. I would rather definitely use like the Knight or other like one-handed weapons like the crossbow than these two. Maybe a bit tough. Let me know down below what you guys think. But yeah, I think we're good with everything else. Yeah. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. Please let me know down below what you guys thought. What's your S tier? What's your A tier? Let me know. Definitely remember, this is not a fun tier list. I'm trying not to put any amount of fun in this. I'm more or less trying to keep it on like a more of like the utility and like how well it performs in the mission all by itself. Keep in mind also, I'm not combining this with loadouts and stuff like that. I know that like this weapon or that weapon is really good with this stratagem or that to cover its bases. What it falls short of, I'm trying to do it based on like, if you didn't have that available to you or you're not doing that loadout, how does it perform by itself? So keep that in mind. Please keep that in mind. I get every time I feel like people don't listen to that and they're just like, well, if you use it in this context, it's easily S tier. And I agree, but that's like putting 14 different things together to make sure it's covering all the bases that this thing can't do, right? So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Come by the Twitch stream or the YouTube stream. We will be talking about these long into the future. I will be updating my bugs and bots tier list over time. Just right now, we're obviously really distracted by the Illuminates invasion. Come by the Discord as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Consider dropping a like if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below. And hope you have a great morning, evening, afternoon, night. Bye, YouTube. Peace.